Hi guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. August is coming to an end and I've got to be honest, it kind of came and went like it had somewhere to be. Back to school, end of summer, all of these things that are adjusting as we sort of fall into autumn. Let's talk about what I read and didn't read in August though. Let's start with books that I did not finish in the month of August. So there are 4 and a possible, but right now a strong 4. I talked about this book in another video and I was enjoying it up to a point. I got to 40% and then I just found myself letting more and more time pass. And I'm the type of person that if I don't really return to a book within the week, it's not looking too hot. So I knew once I saw that 14 days had passed that I had just really no interest in picking this back up again. I think the premise is really interesting and maybe it could be one that I would revisit again in a distant future. I'm just so intrigued by other reads right now. The Man No One Believed. This was one of my August books of the month. When I got this book, I was saying, oh, I'll just try new things and step out of my comfort zone, because this book really made me understand that sometimes the medium really is the message. Because I think if this was a documentary, which I'm sure it is, I would have been way more attached to this, way more interested in what was happening. But reading it and trying to process, oh, you're talking to this person and this person and this person without kind of any other visuals, or like, it felt like I was put on a case and they said, okay, just have photographic memory and solve it. That's hard. I think it was requiring way too much brain power for me to actually enjoy the read, and ultimately I just didn't like it. I don't know what story that she was going to try to tell with this, but I didn't like it one bit. And I'm kind of somebody that's not the biggest fan of flying, and when I originally saw this book, I was like, oh, well, maybe this is for the girls that have a bit of fear flying and then they can fall in love with the pilot and everything's fine. No, the first 4% that I read was her talking about how she wanted to have sex with the plane and like describing the different models in the way that the different models have sex. And then to put the icing on the cake, her big fantasy was to die in a plane crash because she felt like that would be the plane showing its love for her by taking them both out in some dramatic grand gesture of love. I genuinely felt like I was being gaslit, but on my own personal episode of Fear Factor, because again, that's why I say I don't know what type of story that was going to come out of this at the end, but I don't know how the first part even developed into something else. DNF. I DNF'd Happenstance by Tessa Bailey at 64%. And you might say, Cameron, round that up to 100, you were almost done. And that's correct, that's math, but at what cost, right? I've known about this book for a while. You see the 3 suits on the cover with the dress. What does that imply to you? 3 men, a woman, great. So I knew what I was getting into. We know how Tessa Bailey writes. I will say that I got so far because I was starting to... Now, first off, actually, let me just preface this by saying that if I would have finished this book, it would have been a 2-star read or less, okay? So this is not me celebrating the read in any way. This is just me explaining my thought process, okay? Before, I think when I'd read a book with multiple love interests, I'm like, oh, like, as the reader, why should I crave? Why is this some people's fantasy, right? To have 2 or more partners. Reading this book kind of just felt like I was seeing it very clearly. You have one that is big and gruff, but he's secretly a softie that she wanted to protect. One that's an adult actor and very cocky and big for his britches, but secretly like wants someone to bring him down to earth. And then the other who is the one that kind of sees her on this astral plane level, and they connect and they understand each other here. That all makes sense why, you know, it's hard enough to find those three things in one man, let alone three. So yeah, if you could find, it's like breaking down what you would want in one man into multiple, and being able to get your feel from the pick of the litter. Okay, cool. But then why I got so far and then DNF? Because I just felt like so many sexual terms were thrown in my face. I'm really starting to just appreciate, I'm not saying that I'm only reading clean romances by any means, okay? But there's something to having a plot. Like a plot is necessary. And then I found out that everything in this story happened in a week. I can't suspend reality enough. And then the book that we have that is a possible is Red Card by Maren Moore. Now, I might go ahead and finish this because there was part of me that was enjoying it in the beginning. This is Killian and Rory. Rory is the rugby coach's daughter at their college university. Everything was going well up until about where I am now, which is 50%. And then all of a sudden, it's like Killian is like, bam, Rory needs to be my girlfriend. After being so rude and mean to her, he's just in love with her. Doesn't really make any sense. He's jealous that she wants to experiment and try things and go on dates with other men, and now he's like, I'll help you if you want someone to do that, I'll do it, okay? That's where we're going with this. We've seen that before. However, they don't feel like, the helicopter sounds like it wants to come inside my building. They don't feel like they're in college to me. This feels like a new adult romance, like shoved into a college sports romance. And that's not really working for me. We'll see in the September reading wrap up if Red Card makes it or not. Now for the books that I finished, and there are 6 of them, so let's go. How to Sell a Romance by Alexa Martin. This is about a journalist who is trying to bring down this multi-level marketing scheme, falling in love with a member of the multi-level marketing scheme. I gave this read 4 stars only because I appreciated the fact that it wasn't your normal cookie cutter romance and there were other elements that were going on. Between the 2 of them though, I didn't feel an ounce of romance. In fact, if a man did these things to me, I'd get a restraining order. The Bright Years was by far my most emotional and maybe even thought-provoking read of the month. This is the story of a family, pretty much just the trials and tribulations that they go through, how a family can go apart and come back together, the consequences of parental actions, how they affect your kids and generations to come, the idea of forgiveness and family. Those are a lot of the topics and themes that are explored in this book. I filmed another video where I gave a more in-depth review about this book because I feel like it deserves it, so go check that out if you're more interested in this read. Yellowface by R.F. Kuang. I need to go get Calabasas soon. I don't know what I'm waiting for, but this was a reread. I read this book in 2 years ago, okay? So this book, again, sparks a lot of controversy. The last video where I talked about this book, I lost a couple subscribers. I had to say, but I stand on my opinions. Again, I feel like this is one of those stories that, love it or hate it, it's reality, and that's what goes on sometimes. So you just have to, again, accept that. It's a 5-star read. I recommend. I do think if you can read the audiobook along with either an ebook or the physical copy, I think it really adds to the experience. Love Arranged, my loves, Lily and Lorenzo. They've had a lot of screen time on the channel as of late, but doesn't matter, we love them. 3rd book in the Lakefront Billionaire series, interconnected standalone set in Lake Wisteria. This is about Lily, who is Dahlia's little sister, and Lorenzo, this sort of town outcast who's coming back to run for mayor for reasons unbeknownst to other people, which we, you know, of course find out over the course of the story. One of the most notable things that I think I appreciated about this read is Lily and Lorenzo's communication after a certain point, okay? In the beginning, it was pretty rocky between them. So Lorenzo has OCD, and not like in a BuzzFeed, he needs everything super clean type of way. He actually has DSM-5 level OCD, right? There are certain things that he likes to do in this way, or likes to check and make sure that Lily's in this place, all of these certain things. And sometimes because he was grappling with his feelings for Lily and also what that meant, and, you know, the back and forth inside his head, it came off a certain way to others outside of him. And I liked that not only was that addressed by Lily, they also had communication. Lorenzo would apologize if he knew he said something that came off wrong, or whatever the case may be. He also had, you know, of course, his money, and there were some moments where he was like, hey, Dolly is spending all of Julian's money, but there's still no charges on my card. What's that about? Spend more money, it's embarrassing me. I see my future. And you never got to tell me to put that black Amex down, okay? Let's just start there. Ultimately, I gave this 5 stars. I don't think that it was as spicy as the other 2 for sure. I feel like we maybe got 1 or 2 scenes. So if that's what you're looking for, this might not be the one in the series. However, the story was told well. I think the characters and their arcs were both super developed, and it was a good conclusion to the series. I also think that Lauren wants to dibble and dabble with the morally gray man. Do it. Do it. I listened to a early copy of This Is a Safe Space by Lucinda Berry. This is about 4 hours long, and then I sped it up. So this took me about 2 hours to listen to. Put it on right while I was doing some quick task around the house. I think when you're doing those types of things, the threshold is a little low for what keeps you entertained. There wasn't many times where something happened that I wasn't expecting, but I still enjoyed myself. Usually these books are narrated by a full cast, and they have sound effects and different things like that, so that adds to the experience. And I gave it 4 stars. There wasn't a lot of cost and effort for me to read this book and then get a little bit of enjoyment out of it, so I can't hate on it. And this comes out October 21st of this year, so if you do read it, come back and let me know what you think. Last book I read was Harriet Tubman Live and in Concert by Bob the Drag Queen. I had to sit on this review because I think this read, it defined for me what I think speculative fiction is, because I don't know if I've read any at all, and for sure in my adult life. So this is a story of Darnell, and in the world that they live in, basically historical figures are living around us, right? So you can see a person and know that they're one of them. So that's the reason that Harriet Tubman is here, and they all exist together in this world, okay? So now I'm like, okay, this is gonna be speculative fiction, because Bob the Drag Queen, Darnell, is about to make up what they think Harriet Tubman would have been saying, feeling, doing, or thinking, right? And I'm also sure that there was a lot of research that went into this book, so I'm not saying that by any means. Again, there are certain parts of the fiction element that you're like, huh, did Harriet Tubman really think that? Speculative fiction, okay? I ended up giving this book 3 stars though, is because I didn't feel like I came out of the read with anything. Part of Darnell's story, and I don't know how much of this is actually part of Bob the Drag Queen's life, but so much of Darnell's story was about, you know, getting dropped by his record label and this sort of thing at BET, all of these things that led to being in a position where they don't feel like themselves anymore, and feel like having meaningless sex, and don't feel comfortable sharing their personality. They talk about some sort of religious trauma and things like that, and I felt like Darnell's character didn't get anything on the other side, right? So the idea of Harriet Tubman coming to share this story was also going parallel with Darnell feeling comfortable and being able to express himself and share his story, okay? So that's how those two things work together. But ultimately, I don't really feel like Darnell grew. I don't feel like Darnell grew, and that was maybe one of the main points of the story. And then when you look at like the Harriet Tubman facts and different people that she talked to, and you know, it does kind of tell like a dramatized version of the Underground Railroad, and did tell a good message about how most of us today don't know what it's like to be enslaved, and it's just the general language that we use about things. But again, I don't think that's anything new that you couldn't come to from reading a different book. So I don't know what gap in the literature, real researchy of me, but I don't know what gap this filled. So that's why it's 3 stars. It is a memorable read. I don't think that I'll just necessarily forget it, but I didn't feel like there was a journey at all. It felt like very stationary and choppy. And Harriet Tubman, we learn about her, and now here are the songs that tell the story. Those are all my thoughts. And then lastly, I thought I would show you guys a book that I didn't get to read, but am really, really looking forward to reading. Seduction Theory by Emily Adrian. From what I know, this is about a student who writes her thesis basically exposing professors' infidelity at the university. That's tea. I'm waiting for the audiobook copy, but every day that goes by, I'm like, can I just try to... Oh, and this is dedicated for her husband. That also seems like tea. I'm like, can I just try to read this? I just think the whole idea of the book is so cool. Like, it starts with her page that this is a master's thesis. And because I did a master's thesis, I don't know, I just feel like this is really cool. All right, guys, that was a rundown of my August reads. This month was a big month for me, and I honestly might just film like a separate video talking about how I feel like I transformed literally as a person in these last 30 days and what that looks like for me moving forward and right now. For this video, I'm just gonna say that I really, really enjoyed the month of August. What a privilege it is for each month to feel better and to feel like I'm learning more about myself and just learning how to exist. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Tell me if any of these books sounded interesting to you, or what your most favorite read in August was. All right, guys, I'll see you in the next video.